Hey there and welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of life's biggest secrets. It's this incredible balancing act that every single living thing, from a microscopic cell to, well, you, has to perform every moment of every day.
So let's just jump right in with a question. What on earth could a person have in common with a tiny little paramecium you'd find swimming around in a drop of pond water? I know, it sounds a little strange, but the answer is actually at the very heart of what it means to be alive.
You see, the answer to that question all comes down to a challenge that every living thing has to face. It's this constant, delicate dance of trying to stay stable in a world that is always changing.
And you know there's a fancy scientific name for this balancing act, homeostasis. It's basically the ability for life to keep its inside world, its internal chemistry and physics, steady and constant, no matter what chaos is happening on the outside. Honestly, it's the most important job any organism has.
So what does it actually take to pull this off? Well, it boils down to 4 key things that all life has to do. It's got to grow, it's got to be able to react to what's going on around it, it has to be able to turn food into fuel, and of course, it needs to reproduce. All right, to really get our heads around this, we've got to zoom way in. We're going to start with the master of solo survival, a single cell, and see how it manages this incredible feat all by itself.
Think about it. These single-celled organisms, they're the ultimate do-it-yourselfers. They are totally self-sufficient. Everything we just talked about, growing, reacting, making energy, reproducing, it all happens inside the walls of one single tiny cell.
And don't let their size fool you. In terms of sheer numbers, these tiny organisms completely dominate our planet. They are literally everywhere, from bacteria digging in the soil to algae blooming in the ocean and even the yeast that helps us make bread.
And their life is a constant hustle, a nonstop battle to maintain that balance. They're always searching for food, trying not to become food, and all the while, keeping their internal chemistry just right. It's a high-stakes game they're playing 24/7.
Okay, so that's how one cell does it. But what happens when you scale up? I mean, way up to trillions of cells. How does something as complicated as a person, or even a parrot, keep everything in balance? Well, the answer is one simple word: teamwork. And this right here is the game changer. A single cell can do it all, sure, but a cell buried deep inside your liver can't just pop out and grab a snack. It totally depends on all the other cells around it. The trillions of cells that make up you have to cooperate. They have to become a team.
You know, there's this fantastic analogy for this. It's like a championship baseball team. You've got your pitcher, your catcher, your outfielders. Each one has a very specific job to do. They can't win the game alone. They have to work together, communicate, and anticipate each other's moves. And that is exactly what your cells are doing. So when you boil it all down, you've really got 2 different playbooks for life. On one hand, you have the unicellular organism, the ultimate jack of all trades, completely independent. But on the other hand, you have multicellular life, where it's all about specializing, depending on each other and communicating, all for one big goal: keeping the whole organism alive.
All right, so let's dig into that first rule of teamwork, specialization. How in the world do all these different cells figure out what their job is supposed to be?
This is really the secret sauce of all complex life. Instead of every cell trying to do everything, they become experts. Some cells become muscle cells, dedicated to movement. Others become nerve cells, built for rapid-fire reactions. And others become gland cells, whose whole job is to produce essential stuff. Each one plays its own unique, critical part in keeping the whole body in balance.
Okay, check this out for a cool example. The cells that line your windpipe, they're basically specialized street sweepers. They're covered in these tiny little hairs that are constantly, and I mean constantly, beating in rhythm to sweep gunk and bacteria up and out of your lungs. And to fuel that relentless work, they are absolutely jam-packed with mitochondria, the cell's little power factories.
And hey, it's not just animals doing this. Plants are in on the game too. I mean, just look at a grain of pine pollen. It's a masterpiece of engineering. It's super tiny, incredibly tough, and get this, it has 2 tiny little wings. The whole design is perfectly specialized to catch the slightest breeze so it can travel for miles to find another tree. It's just brilliant.
Okay, so we've got all these amazing specialized cells, but a team full of experts with no organization or game plan, that's just chaos, right? So how does life get them all organized and working together?
Well, it turns out life is an incredible architect. It builds everything up in levels, a clear chain of command, starting from the smallest individual cells.
It works just like this. You start with the basic building block, one specialized muscle cell. Then you get a whole group of those cells working together, and boom, you've got smooth muscle tissue. Then you combine different tissues, like that muscle tissue, plus nerve tissue, plus connective tissue, and they all work together to form an organ, like the stomach. And finally, you get a team of organs, like the stomach and the intestines, all collaborating to form a whole organ system, like our digestive system. It's amazing.
So we've got specialization and we've got organization. But what's the final piece of the puzzle? What's this secret ingredient that makes it all work in real time? It's that second rule of teamwork, communication. Your cells are constantly talking to each other, sending chemical messages back and forth.
So, how does a cell hear these messages? Well, it uses something called a receptor. You can think of a receptor as being like a tiny, perfectly shaped antenna on the cell's surface, and it's waiting for one specific chemical signal. When that signal shows up and docks with it, it flips a switch inside the cell.
So the whole process, when you break it down, is simple but so powerful. One cell sends out a signal. That signal travels over and finds the exact right receptor on another cell. And when it locks in, it tells that receiving cell to do something. Maybe speed up, maybe slow down, maybe start producing something new. This is how all the cells in your heart know to beat at the exact same time.
And that brings us all the way back to the beginning. This incredible, elegant system, specialized cells, organized into tissues, organs, and systems, all constantly communicating with each other. This is how a massive, complex organism achieves the very same goal as that tiny paramecium in a puddle. It maintains homeostasis. It keeps itself in perfect, life-sustaining balance.
So just think about that for a second. The next time you take a breath or feel your own heartbeat, there are literally trillions of tiny living parts inside you, each with its own job, all talking to each other, working together as a perfect team. And it's all happening automatically, without you ever having to think about it, just to keep you, you. How amazing is that?